皆様、大変長らく
Thank you very much for waiting, ladies and gentlemen. Now we would like to open the third Strategic Partnership Symposium Future Prospects for International Cooperation of Japanese Universities with Overseas Universities. I will be serving the MC today from Tokyo University. My name is Yagihashi. Now, first of all, I would like to ask Professor Dr. Hayashi Kaori, Executive Vice President of the University of Tokyo, to deliver opening comments. Thank you, Ms. Yagihashi. Hello and good afternoon. As has been kindly introduced, I am Hayashi. I'm the Executive Vice President of the University of Tokyo. On behalf of the organizer, allow me to say a few words of greetings. I am very delighted to hold this symposium with the many people joining on virtual basis from in and out of Japan. Today's symposium is a part of the project, building a network of strategic partnerships to strengthen international competitiveness among Japanese universities under the Japan Forum for Internationalization of Universities. In the first symposium held in March 2022, the new strategic partnership aiming to strengthen international competitiveness during the pandemic. In the second symposium in March 2023, the deepening of the multifaceted partnership through strategic partnership were the themes. For the third round, because this year, with the last fiscal year for the SGU, Super Global University Supporter Program, and with this in mind, we have set the topic of future prospects for international cooperation of Japanese universities with overseas universities. I hope that we will be able to deepen a discussion with all the partner universities under this theme. SGU, the project has been started from 2014 as part of the policies to internationalize higher education in Japan. Under the vision of the different universities who have adopted this program, many programs have been proceeded with. At the University of Tokyo, we have set forth a vision of building Tokyo University Global Campus model to be built. And as a centerpiece, the Strategic Partnership University project has been positioned under the SGU program with the Ministry of Education putting forth Japan Forum for Internationalization of Universities. We have been able to broadly share the different issues and good practices on strategic partnerships under the project with the partner universities through symposia and workshops. We have been aiming to improve the global presence for the Japanese universities through strengthening partnership with the universities overseas as well. In order to bring solutions to global issues such as climate change and pandemic, we need a cross-cutting partnership to be forged. And this year, we have established Global Education Center, and last fiscal year, the Climate Change and the Social Partnership Research Institute. Even though the pandemic has subsided, we need to have a systematic response to the various issues that would appear as challenges going forward. In the international strategic partnership, what is important in that the diversity need to be celebrated, in that the different activities are to be proceeded with by the different universities. We need to have a fresh view on the existing framework to try to improve on the international partnerships. Now, as I have already introduced to you, the theme for this time is future prospects for international cooperation of Japanese universities with overseas universities. So we have 2 keynote speakers and 9 universities, including University of Tokyo, who are participating in the project, will be joining the panel discussion. I would like to thank all the speakers for sharing with us your valuable time today. From the Japanese university, a keynote speaker, we have Professor Kuroda Kazuo from the Waseda University, the graduate school of the Asia Pacific Research. He will be speaking about international partnership as well as global governance. From Mozambique, we have Professor Jorge Ferrao, who is the Chancellor of the Maputo Pedagogic University, who have been working for many, many years in close partnership with Ehime University. The 3 years of the program will be summarized, and we will listen to the new endeavors going forward. And I hope that we will be able to have a good discussion as to what we can do in terms of international partnerships going forward. So this would be the 3rd and the final round of the symposium for the 3 years program. It is a pity that this is the end, but as the saying goes, every new beginning comes from some other beginning's end. I hope that the symposium will be able to disseminate the knowledge and findings which have been obtained through our program and to open up new opportunities for further globalization of the higher education institutions. It is 2.5 hours, a quite long symposium, but I hope that you will be able to enjoy the discussion. Thank you.
ありがとうございました。
Thank you very much. We now would like to call upon Mr. Kobayashi Yosuke, Director, International Affairs Division, Higher Education Bureau, Ministry of Education, Culture, Sports, Science and Technology, for opening address as guest. Mr. Kobayashi, Director of MEXT, please go ahead. Thank you very much. I am Kobayashi, Director of International Affairs Division at the Higher Education Bureau of MEXT. On the occasion of the Strategic Partnership Symposium, allow me to deliver a remark on behalf of the Ministry of Education, Culture, Sports, Science and Technology. First, I'd like to pay respect to the University of Tokyo and partner universities for preparing to organize this symposium and other organizations from Japan and abroad for participating in this event and offering cooperation. The Japan Forum for Internationalization of Universities, JFIU, which is the framework for the implementation of strategic partnerships, was established in the 8th year after the launch of the Top Global University Project by the universities selected for the Top Global University Project and other institutes as a venue for university-led activities to spur nationwide efforts for the internationalization of Japanese universities. Currently, 18 managing universities are implementing 19 projects. Through efforts by the managing universities, the network of institutes that are seeking internationalization has expanded, increasing the number of JFIU forum members to 53 national institutes, 9 public institutes, 58 private institutes, 2 junior colleges, 3 technical schools, 7 other organizations, and 2 supporting members, a total of 134. There is elevated attention and expectations towards each project. One such project is on strategic partnership that the University of Tokyo and 8 other universities are running in order to promote education and research activities as well as exchange with overseas universities with whom they have comprehensive, mutually beneficial, and special relationships that are beyond standard inter-university exchange Deepening partnership with such universities abroad shall serve as a starting point for more intense educational cooperation such as joint degrees, double degrees, and co-tutel or advanced international joint research, while at the same time will enhance the international presence of the participating university. It is a new style of international partnership with great potential. Under this project, challenges and good practices of each institute are shared to promote horizontal development, which we hope will lead to stronger international compatibility and competitiveness of Japan's higher education. We also expect that more Japanese universities will establish strategic partnership with other overseas counterparts. At the moment, the Council for the Creation of Future Education, chaired by Prime Minister Kishida, is discussing how education, including higher education, should evolve in order for the government to present a clear policy for the future and to promote a diverse and flexible interface between education and the society to enable all people to engage in reskilling and relearning throughout their lives. At the meeting held on April 27th this year, the Council came up with their second proposal, which included targets to be attained by 2033, such as sending 500,000 Japanese students overseas and receiving 400,000 foreign students from abroad and have them settle in Japan. Currently, the government is working to prepare a new policy on sending Japanese students and receiving foreign students in the post-COVID era and a concrete plan to act on such policy. Based on the overall direction of the government's policy and the assessment of top global university program, MEXT included the following activities in our budgetary request for fiscal year 2024. Project to build an ecosystem for the realization of an inclusive society in which highly skilled global talent shall be fostered and retained, enabling active participation by diverse human capital by engaging universities to collaborate with local communities for internationalization, and to offer education programs overseas to enhance the presence of Japanese universities overseas for Japan to be chosen by top performing students as a place to study, and the project to actively disseminate information on studying in Japan and strengthen local services such as providing Japanese language training as part of the education program to receive more students from abroad. Working together with relevant ministries and organizations, we will support initiatives to promote recruitment and retention of foreign students in Japan. In order to have students choose Japan as an attractive place to study, we are working to improve the environment for those students to continue to stay in Japan after graduation to pursue their careers. Let me close by wishing that today's symposium will be an opportunity to consider how best the Strategic Partnership Project should be implemented to invite as many universities as possible to participate. Thank you.
小林参事官。
Thank you very much, Mr. Kobayashi. Now let us move on to the keynote speech. The questions on keynote speech for the guest lectures, we would like to take up during the Q&A session from 6:40. Those of you who have questions, please use the Q&A box at the bottom. Now, I would like to ask Professor Kuroda Kazuo, Professor of Graduate School of Asia-Pacific Studies of Waseda University. Please. As has been kindly introduced, my name is Kuroda from Waseda University. Thank you very much for this invaluable opportunity. Now, what I would like to speak today is when we think of international partnerships, we need to start from global governance framework. That is to say, if we are to have global partnerships in the higher education, there are diverse forms and diverse objectives for partnerships. But in bringing solution to global issues and global challenges, that should be the ultimate goal, is what I would like to suggest. Now, this may be preaching to the Buddha, but the professors who are gathered today have already engaged in international cooperation. So perhaps I need not to lecture you, but how can we sort out the processes leading to internationalization of higher education is what I would like to start my talk with. Now, the relationship with the globalization, the socio-economic globalization, in responding that, we need to internationalize universities. And as the international community is globalizing, that is the catalyst promoting internationalization at universities, and that is illustrated by this the chart. And Professor Jane Wright has said that internationalization, the internationalization at home and internationalization abroad, she has divided into two categories. On the other hand, as internationalization is preceded with in response to globalization, we need to build a framework for regionalization of universities, and internationalization in that sense may be another the purpose and objective. UNESCO, back in 2009, have had the World Conference on Higher Education. The inaugural meeting was in 1999. The latest one was done during the pandemic. And in the second conference, there was an in-depth discussion on internationalization of higher education. What should be the form? As the top sentence shows, the exchange of students internationally is often talked about. But of course, it could be exchange of faculties and also double degrees and joint degrees. And during the pandemic, what has progressed was by utilizing ICT, going beyond the national borders, the university courses and programs have internationalized. Now, before the pandemic, I have worked with the JICA Institute. 300 representative universities in East Asia has been surveyed. On internationalization, how are you proceeding with, was the question asked. And what was popular? Most popular was having the memorandum of understanding for exchanges and try to ensure the university overseas where they could send their own students to. And at the time of the ICT, there was quite low in terms of priority. But after going through the COVID pandemic, you can see that the ICT has been upgraded and it has become more popular. Now, that has been the introduction to my talk. Why do we need to internationalize? That is what we need to discuss and argue about. Professor Jane Knight have been talking about the rational expectation, how the government or each universities, why are they trying to internationalize universities? What are the rationale? What are the reasons? You need the social, cultural, political, economic, academic. Those are some of the rationales or the reasonable expectations. And I have already referred to the survey in East Asia, the JICA Institute's survey. At each university level, why are they motivated to internationalize? Of course, initially it was trying to ensure visibility internationally, but then to improve on the quality of education and also to promote international research. So those are some of the important goals. And fourthly, more political, that's to say, in order to promote international understanding. That is also given as one of the purposes. So what are the goals and purposes of internationalization of universities? If you look from a historical context, it started with cosmopolitan university model. For example, Oxford University and Paris University, during the Middle Ages, they used the Latin language as the common language. Even the national borders were not really recognized formally. So, to be international, that was taken for granted for the universities. But then the nation states have come into being. And the University of Tokyo was Imperial University of Tokyo. It used to be called as such. And many nation states that have arisen, and in Asia and Africa, those colonies who have become independent from the suzerains and have become nation states, newly born nation states. Nation-state university model have come into being, having students sent overseas that try to absorb the latest technologies and also to invite leading professors from abroad. So there were benefits with internationalization, but they did not feel that much of a benefit from inviting foreign students over to their universities. So the cosmopolitan as well as nation-state university model, which is more contemporary model. So in this mixture of cosmopolitan and nation-state, what is brought about by internationalization of universities, it is highly complicated. For example, soft power may be the purpose by accepting international students. They will be able to have better international exchanges and also to secure highly capable and talented students from the other countries. So both sending as well as accepting students and also having a global mix of faculty as well. Those are now the salient purposes of internationalization. And for the states, for the nation states, they are now recognizing the complex benefits. So skipping over the International Joint University model, the global university, the model is what I would like to talk about. The cosmopolitan nation-state university, the model. Of course, nation-state is right at the center. For example, the Japanese universities will have Japan at the center. But on the other hand, in the world, you need to be always aware of the ranking, the league table of the universities, and globalizations are progressing so much. The competition and cooperation both need to be done globally. And for universities, the new model, the global university model, especially the research-oriented universities, are aiming to become global universities. So in the different models for universities, the world over, universities are trying to compete but also cooperate with each other. Then, what would be the final goal? Bringing solution to global challenges. That would be the most important role asked of the universities. So when we speak of global universities, of course, they need to pursue academic research, academic studies. That is something universal, but it is not no longer nation states at the center, but international community, international society are demanding the universities to bring solutions to the global challenges. On the other hand, the framework of governance, global and regional, in the international community from the 1990s, for example, at the United Nations, Global Governance Committee has been established, and they have questioned and engaged in discussion on global governance, for example, the issues of peace as well as issues of other social issues. The governance framework has been established not just by United Nations institutions, but also involving the civil society organizations as well as the private sector, businesses, and also universities as well. And education was more oriented towards nation state in the past, but universities are now included as subject of the global governance. So as a global governance, what may be the modus operandi For example, establishing international laws and conventions, or to have an influential concept. For example, for higher education, through the World Conference, UNESCO, and the World Bank, have come up with the report entitled Higher Education in Developing Countries, which had a lot of impact on the concept and thinking of the higher education. They also would have established many agreements. For example, the World Conferences on Higher Education have been held, and also the SDG Summit have been held as well. So agreement, global agreement, international agreement that has been achieved to establish the goals for the whole world, also in the domain of higher education. There is another approach called indicator approach, especially for the secondary education. The PISA of OECD has a lot of influence. But for higher education, a QS, which is not legitimate, or the Times Global University Rankings, has become a de facto global governance framework. And especially in the higher education, network approach abounds as well. International alliances, the universities who have gathered today, have also joined many different alliances. So through the alliances, be it the global or be it the regional governance framework, have been achieved. So historically, especially peace, especially for higher education, global governance, peace has become the central topic and central theme of interest. For example, during the world wars, for example, in Paris, the Cité Universitaire Internationale de Paris has been established after the World War I. And after the World War II, a UNESCO constitution that has been established that since wars begin in the minds of men, it is in the minds of men that the defenses of peace must be constructed. So the preamble says everything. So internationalization of higher education maybe is there for the purpose of bringing peace. And in the Fulbright program, Senator Fulbright has been pained by the atomic bombings in Hiroshima and Nagasaki. And through the Fulbright program of international student exchange, he wanted to achieve peace. And also the theoretical pillar, like the Karl Deutsch of the European community, to be established. Interconnecting activities help create common values and identities among people from different states and paves the way for peace. That is the concept that he has established. Now, Meiji University has taken the initiative, and I have also participated, which is a survey on the impact for the international students. And peace, concept of peace, seems to be the strong motivation of students who engage in studying abroad. And from the human rights perspective, for higher education, global governance, there are all sorts of different arguments, but I will not go into details. Another important perspective, what I would like to introduce, is development. For the developing countries, you need to have internationalization of higher education and make investments into this. This is quite relevant, which has been indicated from the practical point of view, and the higher education needs to work in close partnership. That the international framework has been established because of all these different reasons. More recently, in the 2000s, the education for sustainability. I'm sure you have been involved in ESD, many of you. the education for sustainable development. And Japan, through the G8 summit, Prime Minister Koizumi and the Japanese NGO have made a joint a proposal. And ESD, the decade for ESD at the United Nations have been started, and this has become an important value.
So, in the SDGs, how is higher education positioned? Higher education is referred to in 4.3, and then in 4.4 and 4.5, equality of access to education, or in 4.7, the promotion of educational values such as ESD, peace and nonviolence, are referred to, that those values ought to be promoted through higher education, and those are goals set forth under the SDGs. And there's 4.B that refers to internationalization, studying abroad, scholarship ought to be promoted, and those objectives are included in the SDGs. And goal 4 is quality of education, but it's not just goal 4, but in all of the 17 SDGs, higher education is important and also play an important role. The United Nations and UNESCO has repeatedly mentioned the important role of higher education in all of the 17 SDGs. So, when we look at the relationship between SDG and universities, an Australian university did some research. Universities can contribute to SDGs. Everybody said that, but by using the framework of SDGs, it is also possible to promote university reform on the university side. So it goes both ways, or it's a circular relationship. Okayama University has translated this research, and therefore, please read the report at your leisure. It's quite interesting. So in the global context, through internationalization of higher education, it could contribute to SDGs. And then on the regional side, in Asia, although there are conflicts and confrontations, historically there had been several regional frameworks. And regarding those regional frameworks, there has been regionalization in Asia, and as the background there is the economic integration in Asia, but that does have impact in internationalization of higher education, and it's been demonstrated, especially US, UK, France. These are major destinations for Asian students, but China, Korea, and Japan are also becoming major recipients of Asian students. And from East Asia and the Pacific, more than half of the students travel within the same region. They don't go to North America or Europe. Rather, overwhelmingly, the majority comes to other places within the region. So intra-regional studying abroad has increased according to UNESCO. Joint degree and double degree, this is rather outdated, but there are many such programs within East Asia. This, again, is the JICA survey. And the results of the survey, in East Asian countries, leading universities consider Eastern universities as their most trusted and important counterparts. I am running out of time, but inter-university linkages, this again is outdated, but North America and Europe used to be the mainstream, but now Asian universities have come to the center, and looking at more updated data, despite diplomatic ties, in terms of university agreements, Chinese and Japanese universities have many agreements. UK has been replaced by Thailand as the 5th ranking, and branch offices abroad of Japanese universities. Most of them are in Asia, and according to recent study, offices are being established in places like China, Thailand, Vietnam by Japanese universities. These are the places of branch universities being newly established. So de facto international higher education in Asia is proceeding. Asia is becoming the hub. And at the same time, Asian students are moving within Asia. They move from Asia to Asia. And inter-university partnership within Asia is growing. So Asianization of Asia is progressing not only in economy but in terms of internationalization of higher education. So in this context, when we think not just global but regional internationalization of higher education, there are several regional frameworks that have been established. Campus Asia is well known. ASEAN Plus 3 framework has been started, and One Belt, One Road. And in Asia Pacific, there are multi-layered frameworks being established. Then what are the objectives of these regional frameworks? This is the Kuala Lumpur Declaration that was delivered in the inaugural East Asian Summit. As you can see, peaceful approach or achieving peace through internationalization of higher education is being stated. We feeling, developing a we feeling, and also facilitating internationalization leads to skill transfer and leads to economic internationalization. That was part of the declaration adopted at APEC. So there are diverse universities in Asia. It's not the melting pot style like European universities. Rather, Asian universities are pursuing mosaic type cooperation, and theoretically, originally, the theory of internationalization of higher education, Altbach's theory, is the most well-known. At Boston College, he now has become a professor emeritus, but there was Altbach theory of internationalization or theory of international higher education. And that theory indicated that Asia follows European and North American trend. In other words, subordinated. But that situation is no longer existing. So we see somewhat of a flying geese pattern amongst Asian universities. Connectivity between Asian universities has been reinforced. In a different JICA survey, there was a survey questionnaire to professors of Southeast Asian universities regarding experiences of studying abroad. And the majority professors of the leading universities, most of them graduated from Japan, especially Indonesia, Vietnam, Cambodia. Professors of those countries responded that they studied in Japan. In other words, within Asia, there is much linkage between universities, and that has elevated the educational level, the pedagogical level of each university in Asia. So this flying geese model could apply when we think about internationalization of higher education in the Asian context. So let me try to summarize. In the post-COVID world, how should partnership of in higher education evolve? As I said, multi-layered is the key word. In other words, multi-layered structure should be pursued. It doesn't have to be Asia versus Asia. It could be Asia and other regions. And also within Asia, there could be several different frameworks for cooperation. So that is probably the optimal style of partnership when we think about the diversity of Asia. But on the other hand, there's already competition between different frameworks. So there has to be inter-framework order to be established as well. Another point, the U.S.-China confrontation, U.S.-China competition is also impacting higher education, or it has potential impact. And in this context, internationalization of higher education was expected by the global society to contribute to peace. So we have to go back to that starting point. Of course, there's the contribution to socio-economic progress and also contribution to sustainability as well through internationalization of higher education. But we need to once again rethink how internationalization of higher education could contribute to globalization. This is the final slide. Today we have Professor Gemba of Waseda University, but Professor Okuma originally stated the internationalization. They probably were able to do that because they are a private university, but he advocated that we should not think only as individuals and only about our own university, but about the society at large. And that was all the way back in Meiji, a small Japanese private university making a great contribution to Asian region. I'm not sure whether Waseda was able to achieve that goal, but because he advocated that kind of aspiration at the beginning, we were able to have that kind of spirit. So first and foremost, we need to be competitive. So competitiveness is important, and also cooperating with global universities, especially Asian universities, is precious. But then what do you do? Understanding those keys, the contribution. You cooperate and collaborate at the same time, but then by competing and collaborating, what are you aiming to do? Solving social problems in the global society, global community. I think that's what's important for ourselves as part of universities. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Professor Kuroda. Now, the questions on guest lecture, we would like to entertain them during the Q&A session starting from 6:40 Japan time. Those of you who have questions, please write into the Q&A box at the bottom of the screen. Now, may I invite Professor Georges Ferraud, the Director of Maputo Pedagogical University, please.
Thank you so much. Even not following what you said in Japanese, I consider that you called my name. So therefore, here I am, and thank you so much for inviting me to take part in this Strategic Partnership Symposium, which has been organized by Tokyo University and the other universities around Japan. This symposium, in my perspective, it holds a particular significance considering Japan's historical ties with Mozambique and the mutual respect that we maintain for your nation and the people from Japan. In the context of this symposium, the central theme on strategic partnership, I have titled my intervention as Geopolitics and University Collaboration or Cooperation between Mozambique and Japan, as we have been strategic partners. And I guess that this encompasses the geopolitical dimensions of our cooperation. Allow me to introduce myself. I am once again Georges Ferrand. I'm the president of Pedagogical University of Maputo since 2017. And I am also a professor of ecosystem management and I deal basically with the ecology. I would like to just briefly introduce my university, which have the UP, we call it UP Maputo, Pedagogical University of Maputo, has just completed 38 years old. And when it was established as a university, the main aim was to train teachers. So we started as I said before, to train teachers, but with the time, we decided to opening up the other main areas, but we don't deal with very unfortunately with medicine. So we have close to 17,000 students, and it's quite remarkable that out of these 17,000 students that we have, 60% of the students, they are composed by women, which is so unusual, so atypical in a society like Mozambique, where we have men taking most of the space out of the universities. So in this cooperation with Japan, which started a couple of years back, maybe 14, 15 years back, at least as far as I am concerned and as far as I have been involved. Please also to delineate some partnership with the institutions like Naruto University of Education, Ehime University, Hiroshima University, and Hokkaido University. But of course, we would like to carry on cooperating with the remaining universities. I've been to Tokyo. I gave a few lectures in Tokyo, and our aim is to cooperate with you all in the next years to come. So in addition to the cooperation with university, we believe that we are also cooperating with the embassy, which represents the Japanese government in Mozambique, and we cooperate also with the agency which finances cooperation between Mozambique and Japan. So some of the pictures showing the ambassador from Japan taking part in some of our activities. And there is something so special which happens once in a while, is that the Japanese based in Maputo, they come to university and they show us the tea ceremony, which is always the most welcoming ceremony, and we enjoy actually tasting the Japanese tea. So in this cooperation, we should also pointing out the main areas which we have been involved with. The first of them, I think the STEM is playing a pivotal role, considering that when we have this opportunity of sending students to Japan, we choose the STEM areas. So there are at least 3 main students which have completed their students in Japan, and then they came back to Mozambique, which I would like to refer. The first one is a student called Rosalina Tamel. She graduated at Ehime. She came back to Mozambique, and she is playing such an important role in the northern parts of Mozambique. The second one is Professor Fred Nelson. Professor Fred Nelson also did his master's degree and his PhD degree in Japan, and now is one of the vice presidents of the Luryu University. So he started there as a lecturer, he trained in Japan, and he came back as a leader. The last one is Professor Henrietta Massango, which is our colleague. She's the only one speaking Japanese fluently here at our university. And whenever we feel like learning a little bit of Japanese, we go back to Professor Henrietta, and she teaches us some Japanese. I should have gone there and get some lessons so then I could do my presentation in Japanese. But very unfortunately, I didn't have enough time. So please excuse myself for that. And in this cooperation that we would like to talk, I presume that it is important to go back to the topic of my presentation, the geopolitics and the role of universities from Mozambique and Japan. And the question which arises is how our universities, common universities, which have been traditionally spaces of critical thought and expression, how we find ourselves very silenced in vis-a-vis the main problems that have been affecting our countries, our continents, and the world. In some cases, our universities, they choose silence precisely when cooperation is so imperative. The second point is as well that in 2020, and because we are talking about cooperation here, and I was following the PowerPoint presentation for Professor Kuroda Kazuru from Waseda University, who was talking about governance in education, the historical foundations of global governance in education, education for peace and humanity. So I'd like to recall that in 2020, the Magna Carta of Universitatem emphasizes that universities must recognize their responsibility to actively address the world's aspiration and challenge, as well as the needs of the communities which they serve. And that we should go back to this Magna Carta and ask ourselves if we have been performing this role and if our universities are indeed moving out of the space where we are right now and start doing something out meaningful to the people that we are serving. Again, I guess that the society has some expectations from our universities. And when we talk about strategic partnership, we should never forget that universities are not an isolated entities, because we are integrated in our countries, our continents, and part of the international cooperation. We should, again, bearing in mind that while not every university needs to address every global challenge, but each of us should define a set of societal responsibilities. And talking about this strategic, we should do this exercise of defining very few points where we can collaborate instead of having this long list of definitions, which sometimes we cannot achieve them. And again, especially in this phase where democracy seems to be in a bit of risk, there is the silence that can erode from public trust, which somehow diminish the perceived relevance of universities, because we are not addressing the pressing social issues. It's indeed the time that we need to play a different role. We cannot just carry on being universities as we have been so far, but we should be very proactive. We should go out and do and perform with a different task. So therefore, these university collaborations, it's a time that, you know, we should go back to this local and global challenge and assuming our responsibilities. Charles Darwin used to say that in the long history of humankind, and amid animal kind too, those who have learned to collaborate and improvise most effectively have prevailed. So either we prevail as universities or we are going to fail in our task. Thank you so much. In a few words, what I would like to say to this conference.
寺尾先生、ありがとう。
Thank you very much, Professor Ferrao. Now we would like to accept questions for the guest lectures. Professor Watanabe will be moderating. Please. Thank you. My name is Watanabe. I am with the University of Tokyo. So I have the pleasure of moderating the Q&A session. I hope that all of you who will actively raise questions. But before going into the Q&A session, I would like to thank the keynote speakers, Professor Kuroda and Professor Ferrao. Thank you very much for indeed very insightful presentations. From Professor Kuroda, we heard that on higher education to be internationalized, he introduced the history, and he has also explained the more recent developments in order to bring solution to the global issues, and that how important that is. And the multi-strata of different ways of internationalization of higher education have been introduced, and that especially in Asia, there are active partnerships of internationalization amongst the different universities. And from Professor Ferrao, the university in Mozambique and universities in Japan have been working closely, and they are also taking on the challenges of global issues, and the relevance and importance of that has also been emphasized. So there seems to be a shared perception and agreement between the two presentations, and I'm sure the people in the audience do agree with those points as well. Now, there are questions being already asked in advance. So let me introduce those questions already received. First, from Bangladesh. That is to say, there is a question on Bangladesh. Now, maybe I should not ask the keynote speakers, so let me skip this. Now, next question is perhaps addressed to Professor Kuroda. Now, as far as you know, is what I would like to ask you to answer.
Partnership strategies that Ministry of Education of Japan plans to achieve in the 2024. これは文科省の方に
Maybe I should ask the representative from the Ministry of Education to answer, but Professor Kuroda, since you are a member of some of the councils and committees under the Ministry of Education, so if you do some information that you would be able to have to share with us, please. Thank you very much for the question. From last year to this year, under the Ministry of Education, for the strategic, promoting the strategic international student exchange, I forgot the official name, but 400,000 or 500,000 students to be sent and received from the other countries, and the fundamental debate has already been made at the Advisory Council under the Ministry of Education, and I have participated in that discussion. It's also related to what we have been discussing today. When the government is coming up with a program to promote international exchanges and international cooperation of the universities, you need to think about the national interests and interests of the universities and students. Those need to be separated. The national or the public interests, it does not mean that they do not agree with the interests of the universities or the students, and both need to be considered. For example, if peace is to be the theme, in the report submitted by the head council, which are discussing about new programs in order to promote internationalization of universities, peace matters very much, has also been mentioned in the report. On the other hand, Asia-Pacific strategy, the ministry as well as the members of the committee have been suggesting that this should be the major theme, and that is because of influence from the Japanese government's diplomatic aim. So how to position the university international cooperation, you need to take into consideration to a certain degree the national interest as well as the diplomatic the goals. But as we try to bring solution to the global issues, and as was recommended by the Council for the Creation of Future Education, as well as the committee I have belonged to, we need to have consistency in engaging international cooperation. That's to say, you need to take into consideration both the aim for the universities as well as aim of the diplomatic and the public interests, and peace especially that has been an important theme. Thank you.
Thank you very much for sharing with us valuable information. The same person has submitted another question.
Future forecast of the international collaboration and the exchange of foreign partners across regions as measured by the capacity of the East Asia region. いかがでしょうか。
私からでよろしいでしょうか。
May I respond? Thank you. It's difficult to forecast the future, but as I said at the end of my presentation, in the global situation, we are faced with the Ukraine war and the conflict in the Middle East, and thus the challenge for peace is becoming more serious. On the other hand, global warming is yet another challenge. How can we build a decarbonized society? So those are probably the two biggest challenges, peace and environment. And in East Asia, I think those would be the key domains in order to target if we are to spur more internationalization. And then there is US-China competition. And in the context of internationalization of higher education, I expected that there could be impact. But I have heard in press reports that there seems to be a comeback of Chinese students going to American universities. So in terms of academic exchange or research exchange, there's also a trend of the United States imposing extremely stringent rules regarding possible joint research with Chinese institutes. So that taken into consideration, diplomatic relationship, how can higher education institutes overcome diplomatic challenges in order to pursue mutual benefit through collaboration? And I think that is the important question asked to each university. Thank you.
どうもありがとうございました。
Thank you very much. Now, any other question? If not, in the chat box, Professor Yonezawa is raising a question. Professor Yonezawa, if you are joining the symposium, please ask the question directly. Yes, this is Yonezawa from Tohoku University. A global engagement. I would like to thank both of you for encouraging words on global engagement. Now, as we see multipolarization of the world, and from each country and each university are trying to promote international partnerships and strategic partnerships. But looking at Japanese universities, what may be the unique feature for Japan is what I would like to ask you. Thank you. Then, starting with Professor Kuroda, please. Thank you. The other day, we had to work together at the seminar at Tohoku University. And I believe I have said similar comments to a similar question from the audience. So it may be repetitive to Professor Yonezawa, but the competitive advantage in Japan is the rich freedom that Japanese universities enjoy in academic studies. There has been a growth and development of many universities in Asia, but still Japanese universities still enjoy a competitive edge. And it has been criticized that the competitiveness seems to be deteriorating. And of course, we need to do something about that. But on the other hand, Japan, in the higher education, what we have protected, the freedom of academic research and study. And that has been the norm for Japanese universities, and that is highly relevant to the higher education in this country. And for the Asian students and researchers who are coming to Japan, that they would like to engage in research here in this country, it's because that may be the motivation. To be frank with you, there have been many developments, and the freedom of the academia may be threatened these days. But traditionally, we have always protected and preserved the freedom of academic research. And that is the fundamental value of the Japanese universities that needs to be widely disseminated to the world as a message. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I would like to ask a question to Professor Ferrao. Are you still online, Professor Ferrao? Are you there?
Yes, I am.
Could you
Yes, I
understand?
am.
Yeah. So could you answer the
I
question?
think I could not join you immediately on the translation, but finally I got it. And the point that Professor Unizawa actually was asking, it took me back also to what we discussed a few weeks back in our conference in Senegal, which is called CODESPIA. And we were talking about how the universities can participate more and emphatically in all the problems that the world is been going through, and apparently we don't find any solution. We have the wars in Gaza, Ukraine, even in Mozambique. And Japan went through a very horrendous kind of war in Hiroshima and Nagasaki. No one will forget about that. And but Japan has been the symbol of peace, and they had the basis to construct the peace, and they've been enjoying peace. So how do we learn that experience from Japan and translate that learning, that progress, which was set and achieved and established to the world, to our countries? In this cooperation that we have with Japan, of course, scientific knowledge is so important, but more than knowledge is to understand that despite all the knowledge that we have, if we don't have peace, and then there is minimum that we have achieved and we have done so far. So the answer is always referring back to the past, learning from the past, and adopt the best practice to the present and to the future. Those practices, they are not written in kind of Bibles and so on. It's something that in every single day we should adjust to our behavior, to the dynamics, and to what we want to achieve as universities and as human beings mainly. So this would be my answer.
Thank you very much, Professor Ferrao. So here again that we reconfirm the importance of peace, and also that your answer is quite encouraging message to Japanese universities. Thank you very much.
You are welcome.
はい、それではその他いかがでしょうか。
Then any other question? I will read out the question.
Sharing. In current times, we can see geopolitics having an impact on international higher education and cross-border collaboration. But I was wondering if there are also examples you could share about universities, academics, and researchers having a bottom-up impact on the foreign affairs politics of these countries. So first, Professor Ferrao, could you answer to this question?
You know what, sometimes we think that we have the answers for every question in the world. And maybe we don't have the answers for every question. But I would like to come back to one of the experiences that we had with the students from Japan. Some of the students, they came to the northern parts of Mozambique, in the less developed province of Mozambique, which is called Niassa, with the tremendous potential, very fertile soils, but the people are very poor. And that Japanese student, a girl, around the time she was 20, 21 years old, we left that student in a house of a family, in a house with family, and that family was very poor. Initially, they were very skeptical about receiving her, but then they adopted this girl as part of the family, and they treated her as a family. After maybe 2 weeks, that was the time that she was there in that poor family, she came back to us and said, for the very first time, I had experienced the real peace in my heart. And I felt that what generosity is all about. And I think the lessons that I've learned from that family are by far much more important than all the lessons that I had in my school and my university. Well, when she said that, we could not figure it out how deep that thought was around that time. But you are talking about the approach, top-down, down-top approaches. And this is an example which started from the bottom. And maybe most of us, we are not going to learn about this. But for sure, that girl, I'm still trying to remember the name of the girl. It was quite some time ago. But for sure, she took back that example to Japan, and she was in touch with that family for several years. And she was considered that poor man and the poor wife as their parents, calling them mother and father. I don't know if it is normal in Japan for you to call mother and father for someone who is not biologically your mother and father. In Africa, we do that quite often. But in Japan, I don't think that we do that quite often. Those are the examples of humanity, humanism, that we should always encourage, and we should always actually putting it in the mainstream. But for sure, I don't have all the answers for your question. I think the dynamics, they will give us some answers. But if we have something which is already there as a theoretical and part of the mainstream, I don't think that we have the answers for that.
Yeah, thank you very much, Professor Ferrero, with sharing that very impressive examples. Thank you. 黒田先生からもし何
Professor Kurota, would you like to also respond? Thank you very much. I mentioned in my presentation the possibility of internationalization of higher education contributing to peace. But people think that such an approach is naive, that it's not really feasible. There are mixed views. Some do not believe that it's possible. I am aware of that. But there is soft power. Joseph Nye wrote this article, Soft Power. During the Cold War period, USSR sent students to the United States universities, and they were very important elements in the management of the Cold War. And he has quoted the then Secretary of State mentioning that. So in reality, there is the potential for international exchange in higher education contributing to peace. That's one good example. And of course, in the context of global warming, collaboration between higher education institutes can contribute, and empirically, there could impact factor is 1.5-fold or twofold when it comes to international co-authored articles. So it is already demonstrated, and empirical studies are there proving the contribution of internationalization.
Thank you very much, Professor Kuroda. Now, any other question? We are running out of time. So if there are no more questions, we would like to end the keynote speech session. I would like to once again thank Professor Kuroda and Professor Ferrao for the excellent presentation and kind answers to the questions. During the question and answers session, I believe we were able to further deepen our mutual understanding. Thank you very much indeed.
ありがとうございました。
それでは総合司会の八木橋。
So I would like to give back to Ms. Yagihashi. Now, we would like to have the Japan Forum for Internationalization of Universities, building a network of strategic partnerships. We will have the partner universities to join in the panel discussion. So for the questions on panel discussion, please ask your questions during the panel discussion time. If you could utilize the Q&A box at the bottom of the screen. Now, Professor Dr. Watanabe of the University of Tokyo will be moderating. Thank you for the introduction. This is Watanabe Satoshi from University of Tokyo. Within University of Tokyo, I'm the Deputy Director of the International Strategy and Planning Office. 55 minutes is the time being allotted, although it is quite limited. I hope that we will be able to have good discussion. Let me introduce the panelists first of all. From the Ehime University, Professor Kobayashi, from Asia Africa Center. Professor Kobayashi, just one word. Thank you. So thank you. This is Kobayashi from Ehime University. Now from the Osaka University, Professor Obayashi from Osaka University Center for Global Initiatives. From Kyushu University, Professor Konomi Vice President from the Global Strategies Office. Thank you. Konomi from Kyushu University. Next, from Kyoto University, Professor Kono Yasuyuki, Vice President for International Strategy. Thank you. I'm looking forward for good discussion. Next, from Keio University, Professor Tsuchiya Motohiro, Vice President for Global Engagement. Thank you. Next, from Soka University, Professor Tanaka Ryohei, Vice President. Thank you for the introduction. I'm also looking for good discussion. From Tohoku University, Professor Yonezawa Akiyoshi, Professor and Vice Director of International Strategy Office. Thank you. Thank you for the kind introduction. Lastly but not least, from Waseda University, Professor Genma Masahiko, Vice President for International Affairs. Thank you. Now, although it is a very short period of time, the theme is the future prospects for international cooperation of Japanese universities with overseas universities. What we have been doing under the strategic partnerships, we would like to have in-depth discussion. First of all, let me try to summarize our activities under the Japan Forum for Internationalization of Universities, and then ask the partner university to introduce your activities. And then we would like to receive questions from the audience and discuss on several salient points. As for the audience, please actively raise your questions. There is a Q&A logo, and if you could write into that Q&A box. The Secretariat and I myself will look at the questions and ask on your behalf. First of all, the Japan Forum for Internationalization of Universities, building a network of strategic partnerships to strengthen international competitiveness among Japanese universities. Let me very briefly summarize our 3 years' activities. I would like to share the screen, to share the slides. Now, in 2021, those who have adopted the top global university project as well as inter-university exchange project, and also those members of the Japan Forum for Internationalization of Universities, the situation of the partnership-related activities, and those who are not involved in any partnerships, we have asked the question, what are your expectations? And then every 2 months, we had a conference amongst the partner universities to share the good practice as well as issues. And from various perspectives, we have had exchange of views on strategic partnership. Next slide, please. As a major event, as Professor Hayashi here has introduced to us, we have had 2 rounds of Strategic Partnership Symposium. And we have asked the guests from overseas as well as guests from inside Japan to give us keynote speeches and had panel discussion and the presentations of the activities by the partner universities had been done to deepen understanding on strategic partnership and good practices related to strategic partnerships of the Japanese universities have been able to be widely disseminated inside Japan as well as outside of Japan. Next slide. And in September 2023, we have held a strategic partnership workshop. And at this workshop, for those Japanese universities who have not concluded any strategic partnerships, we have introduced the case studies of strategic partnerships. And any questions and consultations on strategic partnerships, we have responded. That was the main purpose of the workshop. And the good results of strategic partnerships to be horizontally disseminated to the other Japanese universities. 10 Japanese universities who have not concluded in partnerships have participated, with 9 partner universities joining. We were able to have very intensive discussion and exchange of information. On the next slide, through such activities, we were able to significantly deepen understanding over strategic partnerships. In particular, when University of Tokyo has proposed this project, what we have expected, the approaches actually being followed were much beyond the very broad approaches that had been adopted, top-down, bottom-up, looking for cross-cutting exchanges in wide areas, or focusing on specific themes, and one-to-one and many-to-many, all sorts of different partnerships that were seen. So we were able to see diversity in the different partnerships. I myself was in the same thought. The strategic partnership for each university that has been reviewed from fresh eyes from the others involved in these partnerships. Now, good practice as well as how to allocate the human resources, how to evaluate, and how to solicit funding on those specific aspects of managing the partnerships was shared in terms of experience and information, and the documents on the strategic partnerships have been shared. And through our discussion, we were able to gain useful information. Now, as Ms. Hayashi has mentioned in her the greetings, we are now ending the program this year. So the findings and knowledge that are being gained through the program and through the network that are being built, each university should move on to the next phase of strategic partnerships. Now, as for the record of the past symposia, if you could access to the website on the strategic partnerships, you will be able to gain the information. And we will make public the symposium for today. For those universities who have not concluded any strategic partnerships, if you have any questions or any points that you would like to consult with us, University of Tokyo will work as a contact point to receive your requests. So that was very briefly the summary of our activities so far at the Japanese Forum. Now, I would like to ask each university to try to introduce to us the salient characteristics of your strategic partnership project, starting with University of Tokyo. Now, I would like to have the screen to be shared once again. Now, perhaps you already know of this. The University of Tokyo calls strategic partnership a relationship in a more comprehensive and mutually beneficial manner, going beyond the normal exchanges with the overseas universities, taking advantage of each university's strengths. That, as the University of Tokyo being at the helm, we were able to bring together the research and education of the different sectors as well as different fields. We were able to build a very favorable relationship. We have started in fiscal 2014, and we were able to have partnerships with 26 universities. For example, in the one university, for example, there are several universities included, like the Stockholm University Group. For example, we were able to have a sustainable relationship and had to expand to exchanges for the whole university in an interdisciplinary manner. For the fiscal year 2023, with 9 major strategic partnership universities and 7 universities where we will be able to build strategic partnerships in a medium to longer term, we were able to support such activities. So we had 8 partner universities with whom we have established strategic partnership agreement or the memorandum of cooperation. Now, we have been engaged in various activities. We have had symposia in a cross-cutting manner, going beyond the boundaries of the different fields. And we had the whole of university type of exchanges. We had interdisciplinary joint research, as well as based upon a track record of activities, we have been able to apply and be adopted as the projects under the JST the program. In the education, we have had new joint education program as well as student exchange program, even under the pandemic. Through the virtual means, we were able to further expand international education to enhance the quality. With the partner universities and our university, we were able to build network. We were also able to build the network with the public institutions, such as the different industries as well as embassies of the different countries. With the 8 partner universities with whom we have agreement on strategic partnership, and with other universities, I hope that we can further expand and continue our close exchange. And that is all from University of Tokyo. Next, can I call upon Ehime University?
Thank you very much. Thank you for having us. This is Ehime University. We are going to touch upon 2 initiatives based upon strategic partnerships. First one, Professor George Ferraro, rector of Maputo Pedagogical University, had made his remark, but he was the inaugural rector of Luleå. In 2008, then President Gebuza visited Ehime and our university, and that was the starting point for the establishment of the collaboration. And in the same year, Ehime University and Luriro struck the relationship because President Gebuza introduced us to each other, and that is how our relationship began. And you see Rector Ferrao, immediately after the presidential visit, he visited our university and agreement was reached. The first initiative was ESD curriculum exchange. Ehime University changed the organization of the former Overseas Student Center to Exchange Center, and that had led to the Asia Exchange Center, to which I am serving as the director. At the moment, mutual collaboration is the key word. One side supporting the other side. Not that kind of relationship, but learning from each other was the spirit from the beginning. Japanese government began to put more weight on Africa, and at the same time, various projects were commenced by JICA to invite more African students to Japan. And Lurio faculty members, here you see the number, but long-term acceptance of staff was launched. And that kind of initiative began. And another project is with Indonesia. And this was part of the MEXT project to support the formation of collaborative programs with ASEAN countries. As is indicated, 6 university coordination consortium was established, Suiji Consortium, and even after the 5-year program period, we are continuing from undergraduate to doctorate level. This high number of students have been exchanged, and Ehime University will continue these strategic partnerships. And of course, we will inject efforts into internationalization of our university, but at the same time, internationalization of the local community. For example, versus our counterpart local community and Ehime. And in the 4th plan, contribution to the local community is also set as one of the objectives of the 4th midterm plan. That concludes the overview of what we have been doing. And especially in our relationship with Indonesia, we value the bi-directional exchange, be it inbound or outbound. We constantly try to have Japanese students engage together with the local students from overseas. They sleep and eat and spend time together. So such living together and dining together does contribute to mutual understanding, while at the same time respecting each other's identity. And we have a track record of those activities. So that was the overview of what we have been doing at Ehime University. Thank you.
ありがとうございました。
Thank you very much, Professor Kobayashi. Now may I turn to Osaka University? Thank you. I would like to share the screen. Yes, thank you. Are you able to see my slides? At Osaka University, we have 2 strategic partnerships. One is the Global Knowledge Partners, and the other is the ASEAN Campus. And I would like to explain mainly on the Global Knowledge Partners. As of December, these are the Global Knowledge Partners. Now, the Global Knowledge Partners, the salient feature is that we set the shared goal and be engaged in different activities. Each university have a strength in different fields, and we have, for example, the environment and the population, such global issues. We try to work in partnership in engaging in shared research. And with this as a basis, with the young researchers are to be nurtured and being trained. We have the common program. And we also have double degree program. We have joint programs being established so to deepen the partnerships and try to make it more sustainable. Next, track records and the future prospects. As you can see on the slide, these are the actual the experience so far. We have had 1,700 participants have participated in the partnership courses, and how many have been involved is an important indicator. And 57 research projects, and we had 116 co-authored papers. That is as of December. For the co-authored papers, we have been able to have good outputs from some fields, but the other fields, it is not easy to come up with co-authored papers. But nonetheless, co-authored papers, the number is quite relevant. We also have had the joint presentations at the International Symposia and International Academic the conferences. We also have applied jointly to a large-scale the grant programs. Let me also mention some case studies with Strategic Partner University, the UCL in the UK. We have invited Dr. Michael Spence from the UCL, and he has given a special lecture for the students as well as the young researchers. 200 or so participants were there to listen to the president and provost of the UCL. So this was quite beneficial, especially to the students. So through joint research and joint activities, we hope that we will be able to strengthen our joint efforts for nurturing and train the young researchers. Thank you.
Okay, good. Okay, well, so yeah, hello everyone. I'm Natsu Konomi, Vice President for International Affairs at Kyushu University, and we are a research-focused institution, and we aim to drive social change with integrative knowledge. And key priorities include addressing societal issues in decarbonization, medicine and health, and environment and food. And today I'll briefly want to share how we plan to elevate our strategic partnerships for joint growth into a new era. We have, of course, numerous international partnerships, many of which began with simple memorandum of understandings and student mobility agreements. While we value these connections, as a research-oriented institution, we recognize the importance of university-wide collaborations in research with partners. And to enhance our research efforts, we established a strategic partnership with the University of Illinois Urbana-Champaign as one case study, building on a decade-long collaboration that began actually with the creation of the International Institute for Carbon Neutral Energy Research in 2010. And this strategic partnership, initiated in 2019, expanded our research activities with international world-class researchers. And despite the challenges posed, of course, by the pandemic, our strategic partnership thrived through online platforms with workshops and lectures, and most importantly, the setup of a matching fund. And in September of this year, Chancellor Robert J. Jones from UIUC, he led a dynamic two-day delegation to our Ito and Hospital campus, and this opened new avenues of both institutions, I believe. And we're actually thrilled to share the news of our recent strategic partnership with National Taiwan University, formalized this September. And building on a partnership spanning over 2 decades again, our collaboration has primarily emphasized here education. And even before the official agreement, we successfully implemented 2 double degree programs. And now ongoing discussions indicate the potential for more double degree programs in the future. Additionally, we anticipate a clinical clerkship between our medical schools from 2024. And as evident basically from these partnerships, one focusing on research and the other on education, it's really clear that these aspects complement each other. But what I'd like to point really out is the significance of trust building over the years to bring these strategic partnerships to fruition. And the success of such collaborations really depends on fostering trust, ensuring a path of joint growth that benefits all. Host, I don't know.
Thank you very much, Professor Natalie Konomi. The internet connection of University of Tokyo has been quite unstable, and sorry for the trouble.
Kyoto University, please. Thank you very much. This is Kyoto University. Since 2019, Bordeaux University, Hamburg University, Vienna University, National Taiwan University, Zurich University, with 5 universities, we have been doing collaborative research and educational collaboration. A seed fund has been established and reallocation is being done. And with this, in new areas, research collaboration and community of researchers has been established. One of the meanings of strategic partnership is the top management, headquarters, faculties, department, researchers, students. So multi-layered exchange is possible. At the rector level, management, and for headquarters, formal and informal information sharing on initiatives at both the universities, faculty, and departments can exchange education-related information and student exchange programs and research exchange at researchers. So real-time basis, comprehensive mutual understanding can be facilitated. With COVID-19 pandemic being resolved, there are new trends in terms of collaboration. In order to more effectively use the seed fund, we are trying to do unified recruitment of projects for funding, enabling flexible use of budgets and administrative efficiency. And we're also trying to establish focus themes to characterize the strategic partnership activities. And also from a bilateral partner, we're aiming to establish a regional hub. Trust is the basis of strategic hub as we try to develop multifaceted collaboration, and we will continue to position this as one of the pillars of our activities. That concludes our presentation.
Thank you very much, Professor Kono. Now may I turn to Keio University, please. Thank you.
I would use English during my talk, so let me speak English. First of all, I want to thank University of Tokyo to host this and past events. I learned a lot from the discussions. So today I want to introduce Keio University's strategic partnership. We call it partnership with consortiums. So what are strategic partnerships with consortiums? In his keynote speech, Professor Kroda mentioned networks or alliances. Consortiums are one way of strategic partnership. We start from existing partnerships. Then we participate in consortiums to deepen connections with other universities. As we regularly meet somewhere in the world every year, we know each other better and find more opportunities for multifaceted collaboration. By doing so, we strengthen existing partnerships and develop new opportunities. So what are advantages and characteristics? Consortium partnerships can guarantee qualities of partners. We say, for example, during dinner time, lunchtime, we are members of the same consortium. Let's do something together. We can start this kind of conversation. Without such membership, it might be somehow difficult to understand each other. We regularly meet in those conferences. We know each other. We know the faces of the partners. So in other words, membership of consortiums creates long-standing relationships of trust. So we also make partnerships with foreign embassies and related organizations such as British Council. So such partnerships allow for new opportunities for collaboration and partnerships. So finally, what are challenges and perspectives? So leaders on our side and their side leave positions after terms end. It sometimes weakens our strategic relationships. Passing ties to the next generation is a key challenge for all of us. And partnerships are not free. So we need to human resources, structure, and budget. Even if you join a consortium, you cannot sit down and wait. So you have to do something with partners at consortium. We need to talk to your partner to start something. So this is somehow difficult, but I think we might have more opportunities when we do activities in consortiums. So that is our way of making strategic partnerships. I stop here. Thank you very much.
土屋先生、どうもありがとうございました。
Thank you very much, Professor Tsuchiya. May I now turn to Soka University, please. From Soka University, I would like we are mainly focusing on Southeast Asia. I would like to introduce to you what we are doing through ASIO. And now, in 1983, we have joined the ASIO. It was established in 1967, not just Southeast Asia, but Europe and North America. About 230 universities are joining in the ASIO. And since we have joined, we now have partner universities in all the ASEAN member states. And more recently, sorry, but the screen is frozen. The interpreter cannot listen to the speaker. So we are proceeding with ASIO, Association of Southeast Asian Institutions of Higher Learning. And now we have established a Center for Malaysian Studies this year. So we are promoting joint research projects with University Malaya and University Kebangsha Malaysia. We would like to continue to have such partnerships. Thank you.
では続きまして、
Tohoku University, please. Please go ahead. Tips or to generalize the conversation we had. So I am going to focus on that aspect. The key point that I wish to leave with you is, and this is not just special to Tohoku, but this applies to all universities, but international activities, strategic partnerships are being stricken, and the missions are diverse. And for example, Professor Ueki will deliver closing remarks, but he is leading a consortium. And under those frameworks, a clear definition of strategy is being sought. Let me summarize what I mentioned in a symposium. First, international partnership strategy should be based on each university's own mission. In the context of the 21st century, I believe that all universities involved in this project are interested in global engagement. And for this purpose, we need to know the current internal and external environment of our own university. And we are conducting various activities in order to meet this purpose. Second, we need to be professional in order to maximize the opportunity of the partnership for the benefit of both your university and the partner university. More specifically, in order to have good quality MOU, there are some tips that you should follow, and a well-designed process needs to be established by referring to those tips in order to secure good quality MOU. We've tried to do that. And third, we also need to make the negotiation process for establishing and implementing the partnership with high-level consensus on what values the partnership produces for the well-being of the university community, as well as the outer global community, which was already mentioned in the presentations. Finally, on resource allocation, capacity development, and ensuring sustainability, each university needs to engage in both top-down and bottom-up initiatives, which was already mentioned in the presentation as well. Finally, one size doesn't fit all. One size fits all doesn't work when it comes to strategic partnership. In the case of Tohoku University, we are pursuing comprehensive internationalization to attract talents who can act with their own capacity for global engagement in knowledge creation. So comprehensive internationalization is what we are pursuing. All universities need to be learning organizations, and I think we can maximize our learning outcome through strategic partnerships, and that is the biggest incentive why we are engaging in strategic partnerships. Thank you very much for your kind attention. Last but not least, Waseda University. Thank you.
ちょっと下の読むところまで見えてしまっているのかもしれませんが。
You also see the text, but let me introduce to you our overseas offices as keys to strategic partnerships. Originally, in 1960, we signed the agreement with the University of Bonn of West Germany back then. So that was more than 60 years ago. And from 1990 to 2016, we had an office. Bonn was no longer the capital thereafter, and we thought that there could be a different place for basis of research. And in 2016, our office was transferred to Belgium. Université Libre de Bruxelles was already a partner, and we have an office. And through the Waseda Brussels office, what kind of activities are we engaged in? Every year we host 4 or 5 workshops, and as an extension, we invite Europe-wide researchers, and we also invite people from the Directorate General for Environment of the European Commission to conduct one-day international symposium. Last week, Horizon Europe related Sustainable Global Food Supply was the title, and not only Waseda researchers, but from the Tokyo University or 5 University of Tokyo, RIKEN's researcher, Waseda's researcher, along with European researchers, had a dialogue on how we can share data, how we can make the research project a friendly research project. Last year, it was AI and intellectual property or regulation that was taken up as themes. And then thereafter, at the Law Department of Waseda University with Columbia Law School and Hong Kong University Law School, education research platform will be established. And the second bullet point, institutional level exchange with 500 universities. Waseda University has such an agreement, and through the SGU project, collaboration that taps on the strength of each top university should be stricken, and therefore being selective, choosing the right partner, and deepening the relationship would be the key to success of strategic partnerships. And currently, we are engaged in concrete plans based upon such objective. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Professor Genma. Now, this concludes the presentations from all the 9 partner universities. Thank you very much. Now, as I have already mentioned at the outset, strategic partnership, there are diverse ways and modalities being pursued. I'm sure you were able to understand that fully as you listened to the presentations from the different universities. Now, we don't have that long a time remaining. It is a little bit over 10 minutes, but even though the time is limited, I would like to accept questions to engage in free discussion. So far, no questions had been received in advance. So if you have any question, please write into the Q&A box. Now, during that time, perhaps I would like to ask a panelist if you have any questions to the other member universities, if you have any questions, or as you listen to the presentations by the other universities, if you have any comments to share, please feel free to raise them. Any questions or comments from the panel discussion member universities? This is Kobayashi from Ehime University. Can I raise a point? Now, in the presentations by the different universities, top-down and bottom-up were mentioned several times. As I listened to the presentations, it is the same for Ehime University, but we usually start from a top-down style of strategic universities. But as the budget is increasingly becoming tight, how can we continue? There are requests from the students. The bottom-up seems to be quite favored. So the assessment and evaluation of the partnerships, I would like to ask for any cases or any best practices, because if we are to continue our program or try to be engaged in new programs, the assessment of the effect is quite important. So any university who would like to respond to this question? Then from Osaka University, in your presentation, you have introduced to us the different data, and I believe you are engaged in assessment yourself. So any additional comment that you would like to share with us? On the assessment and evaluation, I'm sure we have had discussion in the past, and this is still a major challenge. But on the other hand, we need to quantify the program, and the university has put in the budget for this purpose. As I have already shown you, as far as possible, we are trying to quantify the effect and result of our activities, but how to evaluate them and to be linked to the future activities, we have not yet been able to quantify that far.
Thank you very much. What about the other partner universities? Any comments or questions? Professor Kono of Kyoto University, please go ahead. Thank you very much. At Kyoto University, strategic partnership is mainly tapped upon for research exchange. Agreement is usually 3 years, so every 3 years review is done for the agreement, and thus we take stock of the achievements that have been delivered in the 3-year period of the agreement. And how do we do the assessment? How many papers and how much grants were we able to attract? These were really general evaluation criteria, but there are characteristics depending on each partner, so we don't have any uniform yardstick, but the measurement reflects the characteristics of each partner. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Any other questions or comments? Then let me introduce some programs from the University of Tokyo. At our university, inside the university, we have accumulated data, and we are watching closely how many students have been engaged in exchanges, what are the number of co-authored the papers, and so forth. We are tracking those statistical numbers and trying to evaluate how much of a success was seen from the program. Now, in what way would that be linked to the future activities? As the professor from Osaka University has suggested, we have not yet established a good system at the moment. So, at the SGU, the Top Global University Project is to be completed. So, the agreement and the memorandum of cooperation have been concluded for strategic partnership, and we are able to understand the importance and usefulness of the strategic partnerships, and that is a good evidence and testimony of why we should proceed with international partnerships. But we have not yet achieved the evaluation and assessment to a great extent yet. So Soka University, Waseda University, if you have any comments to share, the Soka University, please.
In terms of partnership or international exchange, in general, every year the president's vision is announced. And in that context, a PDCA cycle is applied 3 times a year for evaluation to check the track record. And that has been the guidance given by our president. But how do we use such assessment to plan for the next step? That's the difficult part. There are some successful initiatives. There are initiatives that have not been so successful. But at what stage do we make the judgment to abandon such projects or to continue even if they have not been so successful? We haven't been able to decide on that process. So it's different from research evaluation, assessment of joint research. But at any rate, how can we utilize such framework? I think that's one of the challenges we need to continue to consider.
Thank you. Any other university who would like to make a comment?
では、源馬先生。
Then Professor Genma. Thank you. Now, through our overseas offices, we have been able to strengthen our partnerships with the universities overseas. So once every 5 years, we do have assessment, and there is a mission which have been given for the different offices and locations, whether the mission goal has been achieved or not. And we have sent our faculty staff, but it is too costly. And it takes time to familiarize, so we have localized our staff. So as for the assessment, we are working closely with our partner universities in assessment as well. And if there are any areas that we should bring in improvements, we agree and we decide to do that. Then University of Tokyo, please.
プロジェクトごと
In the case of UCL, project by project, seed fund type of research initiative is underway, and we do conduct assessment for those initiatives. What's most challenging is when we evaluate our partnership, our counterpart universities are also assessing the partnership. And there are up-and-coming growing universities, and they may choose to cut the relationship with our university. So if there are dormant partnerships, we have to abandon those partnerships. But before those partnerships come to that stage of having to dismantle, we try to monitor each partnership and take steps before they reach the stage of having to abandon those partnerships. It's a difficult task, but those are some of the processes that we are engaged in. Thank you very much.
我々が評価する
Now, we are engaged in assessment, but the others, that is to say, the partner university will also be making their own assessment. That is very true. Any other questions or comments? Yes, from Kyushu University. Professor Konomi please. On assessment, I may be repeating similar comments, but for Kyushu University, we only have 2 strategic partnerships. That is to say, we have selected those 2. So as was commented by the other universities, trust building matters very much. So every month, as we try to have debriefing sessions with the top leadership every month, try to confirm and ascertain what we should do together. So human relationship is very important. So assessment, on the other hand, is quite difficult. We need to think about this going forward. And after this, the project is completed, I would like to ask your advice and suggestions. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We are approaching the time to close, so we will conclude the Q&A shortly, but are there any additional comments that you wish to make? Sorry, one last point. Today, the 2 lectures were given by our guests, and they both talked about the essential function that universities ought to play in terms of peace. And we right now discuss the assessment, and how do we assess the social impact that partnership has made. And I think such assessment also is very important. Program to go into the local community to educate the local citizens, and also to have them give us their feedback. Those are some of the projects that we are attempting to implement at Ehime, but those are still work in process, and the evaluation tends to be qualitative, not really quantitative. But the guest lecturers both said that social contribution is something that universities ought to do, so we should be mindful of that.
Professor Tsuchiya from Keio University, please. Thank you. We are not that successful in our assessment process, but looking at the world, the situation is getting strict and stringent. In the consortium, what Japan is thinking is the comment we are always asked by our consortium partners, not just evaluation of our own universities, but how Japan should be involved with the other countries of the world. That is quite important, relevant. We need to be cautious, but we need to be proactive and actively try to put forward our own views and positions as Japan, as a country. Thank you. Now we are arriving at the time we need to end, so we would like to end the Q&A session for now. The issue of assessment is a very difficult the question, and we are always wondering and racking our brains how to go about. But it was good that we were able to listen to the different comments and different suggestions. And I hope that we can continue to have exchange of the views into the future on these important questions. As I listened to the presentations from the different universities, I was able to appreciate that you are making efforts and trying to think about all the different issues that you are encountering. And as I listen to your comments, how to regard your activities and how to go about for your future activities through our project this time, that we were able to be engaged in exchange of information and exchange of experiences. I believe some good results have been seen because of that. And I was able to have a good learning through your experiences and your views and information. Now, we would like to end the panel discussion, and I would like to give back the microphone to Ms. Yagihashi. I would like to thank all the panelists. Thank you.
パネリストの先生方、渡辺
Panelists, Professor Watanabe, thank you very much. I now would like to call upon Professor Ueki Toshio, Executive Vice President of Tohoku University, for closing remarks. Professor Ueki, please go ahead. Thank you very much for the introduction. I am Ueki, Executive Vice President of Tohoku University. Thank you for giving me this opportunity. When the project for building a network of strategic partnerships was launched in 2021, the University of Tokyo, the managing university, and 8 other institutes came together under the objective of elevating international compatibility and competitiveness of higher education, and since have been sharing challenges and good practices experienced by each member. First, I express my deep appreciation to the University of Tokyo for the efforts made in running the project during the past 3 years. The project was launched at a timing when trans-border mobility was restricted due to the COVID-19 pandemic. The situation offered us a valuable opportunity to consider how effective partnership can be built when in-person contacts are restricted, and how partnership should be designed in an age of new normal. After signs of recovery from the pandemic began to emerge, suddenly opportunities for exchange were regained, making it possible to organize workshops and symposia. At such events, we shared experiences on the process of formation of strategic partnerships, advantages and difficulties, and concrete initiatives of exchange implemented under partnerships, which were all creative and diverse. Exchange was being promoted at all levels, from researchers to students as well as staff. The cases we studied demonstrated the breadth of partnerships that may be established, including possible integration with a different university network. We had participation from overseas in such events, from UCL, which is a partner of Osaka University and our university. Vice Provost Professor Rees gave a lecture offering us great insight on the enormous opportunities that could be delivered through partnership between Japanese and British institutes. Today, to conclude the activities of the past 3 years, this symposium was held, where substantive exchange of views was conducted through the valuable lectures and panel discussion, and it is about to close with great success. As we assess the past 3 years to date, including this symposium, without any doubt, enormous achievements have been delivered. For example, the meaning of partnerships has become more visible, and internationalization of Japanese universities has been boosted based on the buildup of rich knowledge. Again, I extend my gratitude to the University of Tokyo, the managing university, and partner universities. I wish to conclude by praying that inter-university partnership will be deepened further through the network that has been developed through this project for continued internationalization of Japanese universities. Thank you very much for your kind attention, and thank you very much for participating in this forum.
植木先生、ありがとうございました。
Thank you very much, Professor Ueki. Now, the keynote speakers and the panelists, I would like to thank all of you for the kind participation. This is the end of Japan Forum for Internationalization of Universities. I would like to sincerely apologize that internet connection has been quite unstable. Now, the URL for your questionnaire to be collected will be shown. So if you would be kind enough to write in and give your answers to the questionnaire. Thank you very much for joining us during the symposium, and thank you for your kind cooperation. Thank you.